Welcome back, class. So today we're going to be talking about the Allegory of the Cave by Plato, where we're going to be discussing 3 points, which are going to be, our focus is going to be at the allegory. What is an allegory? What does it represent? Why is it written? To who is it written? The second word that I want you guys to focus on is philosophy. The Allegory of the Cave is written by a philosopher, a Greek philosopher. It was written in 360 BC, so we want to make sure that we understand where he's coming from, what is he trying to explain through the importance of philosophy. And then third, it's kind of like our little subsection, or rather sub-teaching. It's about the Socratic method and the Socratic teaching. So what is it? Where does it derive from? Why is it important? So the most important thing that we want to talk about when we're reading the Allegory of the Cave, it is an allegory, right? So we want to just define allegory, and we would define allegory as a story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or political one. So basically, it's like a symbol. It's basically something that's written, but you're supposed to read behind the lines, or rather between the lines. So an allegory, it is supposed to be taken seriously, but it's also supposed to be taken also as a story. Like, what are you going to learn from this story? What are the symbols? Why are there specific characters? Why are there specific settings? So just to sum up the story, after you guys have read it in your own time, the story is basically about how there are people in a cave. They live in a cave, they're tied and they're chained to this cave, and they can barely even see each other. They can't see anything around them, they can't see anything behind them. They can only see what's in front of them, which is basically a wall in which there's a light behind them. Like it's not even real light, it's artificial light, it's like a flame. It's a flame behind them that every time someone passes behind them, all they see is the shadows that go in front of them, that where that wall is. So these people, they speak so intelligently, and they're basing their lives off of what they see through the shadows. They don't question the shadows, but rather they live understanding and seeing that these shadows are all they need to live by. It was almost like puppets, it says here. It's like a screen which marionette players have in front of them, over which they see the puppets. They can't see anything but what is shown from the light behind them, and it's not even the object in itself, but rather it's just an object that is portrayed on the wall. And they see their own shadows or the shadows of one another, which the fire throws an opposite wall of the cave. And then it just keeps talking about the shadows, and they're unable to see the realities of which the former state they had seen the shadows. And they believe this to be the truth. And will he not be perplexed? Will they not question? Will they not try to see the light? Will they not try to see what's going on? And sometimes no. They'll just sit there and they'll believe that to be true because that's all he can see. And so then he starts to talk about how, like, there's going to be a person who actually leaves the cave, and he gets off his chains, he leaves his chains, and he actually goes outside of the cave and actually is introduced to true light, which is the sun, right? And the sun in this time means is the significance of philosophy. It's here to symbolize, as we were talking about allegory, it's here to symbolize the importance of philosophy. It's the light of reason, rather. And the cave is basically oblivion. It's basically just your life in simple knowledge. You see something, you've attained it as truth, and you live there. And he talks about how it's like it hurts his eyes a little bit. I'm trying to find it. He's accustomed to the dark, so as he tries to go into the light, it hurts his eyes a little bit. But as he starts adjusting, he starts to see the truth, and he starts to see the beauty of the truth, and how, like, basically he's been living a lie. And as he tries to go back, continuing on with the story, as he tries to go back and tries to warn them and tries to tell them of the truth and say, hey, listen up, that's not the truth. What you're seeing is just a shadow. They don't even know what a shadow is. So they start laughing at him, and they start to say, like, listen, man, you're insane. You don't know what you're talking about. This is the truth. This is how we're gonna succeed in life. You're just a crazy man who's just trying to find something to do. We're comfortable here. We're good here. We don't have to move. And they start to grow sarcastic on him, and then they get angry, and then they plot to kill him, right? So this allegory, it uses the cave dwellers as people before philosophy, and the alienation as as a way to show that when you try to deliver the truth, people are going to they're going to get defensive, and they're going to say, you know what, no, that's not the truth for me, and that's going to happen. But this also talks about the importance of being able to display the truth, how you're not supposed to make people like learn. You can't force anyone to learn, but you're supposed to show them. And that's when we also go back to Socratic method. And by the way, to those who don't know what philosophy is, it's the study of fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considering as an academic discipline. So discipline, how would you define that? You can explain that in your own words. We'll talk about it. And it's basically like, how do you find the way of thinking? What is the truth for you? What is knowledge to you? What does it mean to be wise? Because to the cave dwellers, what it meant to be wise is just be comfortable where you are, watch the shadows, and allow the shadows to determine the way you're going to live your life. To that one person who left the cave and went into true light rather, he found true life. And this makes you start questioning, like, wisdom starts when you start owning up to your ignorance, when you no longer want to be in that cave and you leave. And Plato's deepest insight is basically you don't have to stay in the cave. Because the one thing also in the allegory that he tries to show us is that we all start there. We all start there, and it's not by our choice. But the one thing that can change is our desire to leave. Are we going to sit where we're comfortable? Or are we going to get up and go into the light, even if it burns our eyes, even if we don't know what's going to go on? Because the effects of also going into the light of wisdom, or rather, the light of reason into philosophy, is also knowing that your eyes are going to burn a little bit. That you are going to feel a little bit, alienated. But is it worth it? Or are we going to live our lives as puppets? As it says here. It's just puppets. We're just watching a show. So I wanted to conclude with that question. What is the importance of Plato's allegory of the cave? What is the importance of the Socratic method, which is understanding that we can't force knowledge, but rather we have to allow people to think for themselves and question things? And what is philosophy to you? What is the importance of philosophy? And that's all for tonight.